If you're looking to get started in real estate investing, this is the episode for you. Today's guest, Jenny Rodriguez, runs her own women specific real estate meetup here in Charlotte called Lift. And she's a real estate investor herself, helping other new investors get started on their journey. So if you haven't listened to this podcast before, my name is Chris Rickenbaugh, and this is the Leadway Wealth Builders Podcast. I am documenting my journey in real estate and business and also bringing on high-level investors to share their stories and about how they built their businesses. You can follow my journey on TikTok and Instagram at chris.rickenbaugh. That's chris.reicchenbach. And wherever you're listening to this podcast, thank you so much. Leave us a like, rating, and review, and some potential guests that you would like to see on the show, as well as topics, so I can bring on high-level investors and business owners to be able to, spread the knowledge around. So without further ado, let's get to Jenny's episode. All right, Jenny Rodriguez, welcome to the Leadway Wealth Builders Podcast. Thank you for coming
Thank
on.
you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I was actually doing cold calls, and your sister said, "Oh my gosh, you should interview my sister Jenny. She's a women's coach. She runs this meetup." And I'm like, "Okay, let me reach out." And we had a good conversation and learn more about what you're doing. And I said, "Yeah, you're going to be an awesome guest for the podcast." So I want to break down, let's go through who you are and what you do.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, she mentioned that you called about owner financing, which I love. But yeah, so I got started in real estate really through the brokerage side. I've been a licensed agent since 2019, and I focused primarily on commercial, and then started kind of investing on the side. And while I was doing that, I realized that you get so much motivation and you get information from going to meetups and conferences. And so I was going to those. And while I went to those, I had women kind of DM me and be like, hey, next time you go, let me know because I don't want to go by myself. And I realized this is something that needs to happen. So then I created Lift, which is Ladies Investing for Tomorrow. It's just a free monthly meetup, specifically for women interested in real estate, and been doing that. And then that led to coaching and more investing. And so it's been a whirlwind for the past couple of years.
Yeah, and I can imagine. And I really feel that to where the women want to be specifically in a women's group because my wife, she doesn't really want to come with me to the bigger meetups.
Yeah.
But she said, or when your sister said, hey, we do, a women's only meetup, she's like, oh, I would go to that. And I'm like, okay, perfect. So I think she's going to be there next week from when we're recording today. But yeah, I really wanted to touch on, the beginning of the real estate for you. So when did the real estate investing begin and what was your entryway into the space?
So honestly, I always say that my journey started when my husband and I bought our first house and then we sold it. So we bought it in 2014. It was a townhouse in Charlotte. And we sold it 2 years later. And from the profits that we made, I was able to pay off my student loans, like, 30 years in advance, basically, because it
Wow.
takes so long to pay them. And that's really when I kind of like hit me the power of real estate. Unfortunately, like so many investors and so many people, fear, nerves got in the way, and I didn't really make the next move until after I was already a licensed broker. But I got my real estate license in 2019 because I wanted to spend more time with my daughter, and working in the legal field just wasn't going to get me there. So I got my real estate license, learned more about contracts and just the actual transaction side of it. And in 2021, December of 2021, actually, we moved from Charlotte to Huntersville, and we put our first tenant in our first long-term rental. And then in 2022, we bought our first flip and kind of just been snowballing since then.
Yeah, that's where I think a lot of people, get started is they bought a home, they sell it 2 years later, they don't have to pay any taxes on it, and they, end up with this chunk of money, especially if they bought, in a good time where it appreciated, and then the light bulb goes off and goes, oh my gosh, like we can keep doing this, whether it's buying one home every 2 years and moving, or buying rentals. So that's really cool to start. And you mentioned the legal field. So what were you doing all before any of this? Like, what was your W-2 job?
I was a civil litigation paralegal and a workers' compensation paralegal. So contracts, legal documents, all of that stuff.
Yeah, lot of paperwork is what I'm
A lot
hearing.
of paperwork. Yeah.
Yeah. So how did that prepare you in any way to go into the real estate side once you went all in and started buying rentals and flips and everything?
Oh, 1,000%. Like, I think because of that, I think people get really nervous when they see any kind of legal document. Um, and I was just, I mean, I used to write them. So I was like, oh, that part never really scared me. And just really understanding a lot of the legalese too. So it definitely prepared me.
Yeah, that's such a good groundwork for being able to go into, full time. But, when you started going into flipping and more rentals, like where was your base where you're like, okay, maybe this should be something full time after you got your license in 2019, to where it's like, okay, I'm gonna become an agent, you can hang out with your daughter at home. And where did that kind of like blossom from there?
Well, when we bought our first flip in 2022, we bought it. So I have my investing business is three of us. It's my husband, myself, and my brother-in-law. And so we bought our first flip, not really as a company, just three people. We're like, let's try this. And we're like, okay, let's go, let's learn. And I think everyone from the first property, that's really where they learn the most. We didn't make as much money as we thought we would, but we definitely learned a lot. And so then after we finished that one, we got another opportunity for another flip. And we thought, we did that one. It went a lot smoother. We made the money we knew, like we had calculated we were going to make. We did a really good job with like calculating rehab and all that. And that's kind of where it hit the three of us like, this can be more than just a once in a while side hustle. Like we can do this more often. And so we actually created our business, and we named it after our kids. And there we knew that we eventually wanted to have rentals, but we needed capital. Now, mind you, at this time we were using only cash. So we were buying and rehabbing with our cash.
Oh,
So that slowed us down a lot. Um, but we were like, this is something that we can really do. And so we kind of kept going, looking for deals, and doing slowly, but really starting to flip more. And then we got hard money and started leveraging other people's money and we're able to raise private money as well. And that has really helped us kind of scale. But this year really is the year where it's what we call kind of our year of growth because I have taken a big step back from brokerage, and really just focusing on the investing and then the coaching as well. So.
yeah, that's definitely an exciting place to be. But, on your first couple of flips, were you guys doing the actual work yourselves or hiring out contractors?
Oh no, we hired from day one. Well, we did some of the work, right? We tried, well, let's try to save money and do some of the demo. And the first flip, we knocked down the a wall basically because we are going to change a little bit of the footprint. And we were doing the demo ourselves, mind you, no construction experience. I'm a paralegal. My husband's in finance. My brother-in-law had a little bit more, but still, this isn't our field. But we knocked down the wall, and I kid you not, like roaches just came out.
Oh,
And I ran out of the house and said, "This is it. This is the last time that I'm doing anything. I'll see the before and then come check on it, but I'm not doing anything else." So that was it for me. And then after
oh,
that, we've hired from trash like demo or from the beginning all the way into the finishing touches. Now we hire everything out.
it takes one bad experience to never want to put hands on a house again.
1,000%. It also made the timeline so much longer too. When we were trying to save money to do a lot of the stuff ourselves, it took the rehab so much longer. And that really didn't save us any money.
Oh, such a good point there. Because that's where I was in the beginning. Because even on my first flip, I said, I am not touching this house because for me to be able to install cabinets and learn how to lay flooring, I said, it's going to take me months where I could
Yeah.
just hire in a crew and they're going to be able to knock it out in 2 days. I
Yeah.
said, makes way more sense for me. Um, but yeah, even on ours, like it took us 12 days to do like a 45 grand rehab in an entire house. Like it was crazy how quick they worked. And I said, I like that was the best lesson there to always hire. Now we've gone
Yes.
through a couple contractors since then, and now it's kind of a
Same.
different game. But what was some of the hurdles early on? You mentioned you were using your own money, buying the houses outright, and that ties up so much capital. Um, where and at what point did you start looking around for the hard money and going, oh, we can do more of these at one time?
Um, I'm looking, I have my list up here. Honestly, it was our fourth flip is when we started leveraging hard money. Um, so that's one of the biggest hurdles, right? It is the capital. Like people are like, "Oh, that's so cool. You have like you own four homes or whatever." And it's like, "Yeah, but I can't afford a cup of coffee right now. Like
Yeah.
all my money is in a house." Um, so that was one of the biggest hurdles and one of the biggest lessons. These contractors. I mean, one of the things we learned from our very first flip is we did hire the cheapest contractor, which ended up being more expensive because he ended up doing the work incorrectly. We then had to hire someone else who had to go in and fix what that previous contractor had to do. So it was like double the work. Luckily, we didn't make this mistake, which I've heard from a lot of beginner investors, is giving the contractor money up front. We paid per like project based on the scope of work. So when he didn't show up again, we really didn't, we lost the money we paid him for the work he had done, but he didn't have any like money from us. So that was really good. Um, but that was another one is really finding the right contractors to really be able to help you do it quickly and do a good job. Um,
100%. Yeah, because on the contractor, and that's something I just had to go through. It's we're using one contractor. I mean, things went great on that first flip, and then you get into the other one and you realize, we have 5 projects going at one time. And you start to understand, I'm like, why is this not the same quality? And in our situation was he brought his buddies down from like Connecticut to be able
mm,
to do that first project. And then after that, any of those projects that were getting done were his actual crew. So they were, trying out contractors on our projects. So there's
um,
paint over the floor, there's things not done right. I'm walking past my guy watching YouTube on how to lay flooring. I mean, you just have like a heart attack, and it's like, oh my gosh. Like, it's not even relatively the same crew, two completely different ones. And then, the next guy comes in, he's getting stuff done, and, you know, um, that's a story in itself we just kind of got out of. But yeah, he's like, yeah, this is gonna take another 60 grand to actually finish this project. But where's that
oh,
going to come from?
yeah,
So, so yeah, uh, making sure you have the contracts and everything written up, paying by the scope of work. Just don't pay the contract what he tell or contractor what he tells you. Big points for anybody starting out.
yeah.
So yeah, I kind of want to move down into where you are now on the flipping and the real estate because you said now you're really trying to focus on the investing side rather than the brokerage side. So what does that really look like going into 2026 here?
Well, I was a commercial real estate agent and this year I have some clients that I still work with, but I'm not really trying to take on any more clients and really just kind of focusing on finding more deals and more opportunities investment wise. We really want to grow our portfolio and also raise more private money and also get into other areas. Like we started in flipping. We're probably always going to flip, but we've also done some new construction, which we really enjoyed. And I think kind of going more towards that too. We've done a short-term rental, which we don't enjoy, so that would probably be our only one. But really trying different avenues and really seeing how we can grow and since there's three of us, we've defined our roles also this year, which I think really helps. So I'm, along with my brother-in-law, really focusing on the acquisition side. Um, and then my husband focuses then on the lenders, the project management and things like that. He's a finance guy, so that's kind of his bread and butter. And my brother-in-law and I both have real estate licenses and have just been in real estate for a while, so we kind of can run comps and ARVs and all that stuff a lot faster. So we've realized that's kind of how we're growing. And so we've been able to, I mean, last week we closed, we have a closing next week. So really kind of get that momentum going. Um, and really, yeah, just kind of focusing on investing and less on the brokerage side.
Yeah, so on your team, you mentioned it's your husband and you, and then another partner. Who's the visionary and integrator roles on that team? Are you starting to get into that now?
So my brother-in-law and we're more of the visionary, and which is I think why we're in the acquisitions. I really try to look for like the next flip, and I'm really trying to get into co-living and things like that. And my brother-in-law's like looks for land, and we love mobile homes, like double wides. So looking for land for even like mobile home parks and stuff. And my husband is 100% the integrator. I mean, one thing that we've done well from the beginning, from our very first flip, is we ran this business like a business. We've had QuickBooks since day one. We've been organized with our scope of work. And that's due to my husband and his integrator operator role. So we definitely are very well aware of visionary integrator operator.
Yeah, that's so cool to see because another couple duo, so they live out in Maui, and I'm a part of his mastermind. Cam and Lexi Cathcart, it's like that's how they are. Like Cam is like go go go, find the houses, make the offers, and then Lexi's the operations, systems, money, and it's so cool to see because they're not really stepping on each other's toes, and that's what really helps their business go, and that's what you can really see in your business as well, and that's why it's like hey, it just flows really smooth. But have you ever had any of those instances where you guys are stepping on each other's toes and had to really separate roles?
Yeah, I mean, that's at first. At first, when we were slow, not so much. But when we realized we wanted to kind of gain momentum, that's really kind of when it happened because, mind you, we all had other jobs, right? And we're trying to grow this one. And so we're all looking for deals
Mhm.
and we're all running comps. And so instead of like trusting each other to, okay, she did the comps, she knows what she's doing, or then we're all looking at the same deal, right? Running the same numbers, and it's like taking too much time. And at that time, the market was crazy. So these homes were selling quick. So we
Mhm.
missed out on deals. Or like going through lenders and looking at the term sheets and like picking out just small things like, oh, wait, this. And when we realized, okay, let's stop, like my husband was like the first one, honestly, the integrator, of course. He was
Yeah.
like,
Sees
look,
the system.
I was like, he was like, I don't run comps. Like it takes me so long. I don't have MLS access and go like he's like, I just don't do that well. So just you do that. You and Andrew do that. And I'll just go over here, make sure we run this like a business. I'll do the lending part and the spreadsheets and the comparables and talk to the attorneys and kind of keep us organized in that way. And that's kind of when we really started to kind of gain momentum. But yeah, definitely before we defined those roles, we weren't really moving anywhere.
Yeah, and that's a big pivot I see in a lot of other people's businesses. It's like, hey, everybody's doing everything. It's like, all right, we got to like stop here for a second, define the roles, create the employee board. And so did you guys, do the whole org chart and go through a coach to really figure out those roles, or was it mainly just between you guys?
It was mainly really just between us. Now I do love coaching and I have a coach. I always have a coach. But this particular thing, we did hear it from, I think, a coach. They just weren't coaching us. And that's like really clicked and kind of gave ourselves titles, but not really, but definitely the roles. And honestly, it was probably one of the best advices that we've received because it really did make a difference on how we are running our business and growing.
Yeah, that makes sense for sure. especially for where you guys are, to go and do multiple roles, whether it's the mobile home parks, whether it's new builds or flips, or now looking at co-living, you guys are just able to do so much more now that you kind of
Yes.
know your roles and in your lane and accelerate. So, and I want to jump over to, when you started your real estate meetup, you mentioned you were going to a lot of these meetups and, you had women start to say, "Hey, can I go with you?" So, what was the inspiration to starting your own meetup Lyft?
Well, that was one, right? Like every women kind of asking me or telling me like, let me know and I'll go with you, and realizing like they either feel intimidated because they feel like they're a beginner and they might not feel like they fit in, or because for the most part, the room is usually generally led by men. And if there's a speaker, it's always a man, most of the time. And so I realized two things. One, that I wanted to create a space where women felt safe enough and, just secure in themselves where they can show up on their own, where they didn't have to feel like they need a friend or their partner. Um, and two, I wanted to create a meetup where the people speaking were women, right? Because representation matters. And so I felt it was important that we learn investing through other women because it's just a different setup too, right? And so
For
I
sure.
thought it was important for other women to learn from other women and they can see themselves in them. And so that's when, I created honestly with no motive but to just have a space where I mean, I was learning from these speakers, right? I've been able to meet so many people that I would have never met had I not asked them to come speak or had they not came to the meetup. And so I've learned so much from every single speaker. I learned something. And I really wanted to create that space for women. And honestly, like I've gotten so much positive feedback and just people really wanting to keep going or learning or choosing their lane. I'm honestly I'm pretty proud of it.
Yeah, it's awesome to see what you guys have done because I see the posts and you guys have pretty big turnouts for those events, which is super cool to see because, you know, I think starting a meetup, it's always hard in the beginning. I've seen a couple others try and get started. It starts at a coffee shop and then it gets a little bigger. Then you have to go to this event space. And then, I mean, it's planning an event. And, like
Yeah.
it's not simple.
No,
So
not.
yeah, so how was that kind of transformed into, okay, now you have a really good core group to be able to start, looking into coaching, which is what you've kind of started to move into.
So it kind of just really happened organically because of the meetups. I also send out a weekly email just with like mindset tips or investor tips. And just because of that, like people started coming to me and asking me questions, either on a project that they were thinking about doing or my advice or replying to the emails. And then whenever I would follow up, this specific case, I followed up with one. I was like, hey, so did you end up buying the house or whatever? And she was like, oh man, I had more questions, but I didn't want to bother you. And I was like, first of all, you can, like, that's why this exists. Like, send me an email, like, it's not a bother. Um, and then I realized that maybe a lot of people had that mentality where they felt like they were bothering me. So I started with just creating like a cohort, right? And so it's just six women. And we meet and we talk about things and we kind of talk about what they're doing and their fears. Um, and then that just sort of led to, okay, somebody's really ready to move forward, right? So then we have one-on-one coaching options. But I have like virtual masterclasses for free, like really just different ways that I can help because that's one thing that I've learned in real estate investing is if you lean in and ask for help, I've yet to meet someone who's not willing to answer one of my questions, whether I'm paying for it for a coach or someone I meet at a networking event. And so I really wanted to return that favor because it's been so beneficial for me that I want to do the same, right, for other women.
Yeah, 110% right there. So would you say that's like what's been the biggest mindset shift from, meeting all of these women who want to get started in real estate or even the speakers on the stage? What's like the biggest mindset shift that's happened for you?
Um, I think it was kind of like a mindset, like an affirmation or like more than anything is that your community and your network really matter, right? And investing is not a solo project. Even if you're the only partner, right? Like even if you're the contractor investor, you need so many people to do any kind of investment. And I think that this is really kind of focused, like made me focus and realize how important networking in your community is. And it's just really re-emphasized that and how beneficial it can be.
Your network is your net worth. That's
Yeah.
something that I've really, figured out here over the past year, year and a half. Because you hear it, you read it in books, but it doesn't really like register in your mind until you realize like all these people you're connected to. And then you get it a little deeper. It's like, okay, well, you become the five people you're closest to. It's like, who am I around that's pushing me? Am I the biggest fish in the small pond? Like, what pond do I need to go to? How have you kind of transformed in that level to where it's like, okay, I need to, elevate myself here? Where has that kind of shifted for you?
Well, I had a coach, more of the brokerage coach, but she used to always say, be the dumbest and the poorest person in the room, right? And so that's really kind of what I try to be. And, I'm asking speakers that they come and they're experts in their own field or they have experiences that, I haven't experienced. And I think just learning from them myself, it's been amazing. But also I am a believer in coaching, right? Whether it's a life coach, an investment coach, or whatever. So I feel like I always have a coach. I have a high performance coach right now who I love. And so I think that for me, like just making sure to like really stay kind of in that mentality and growth, right? Because we're always growing, we're always learning, is to really be around those people via coaching, via meetups, via networking events. And I mean, that's a life-changing thing. And really try what I want to emphasize too in my coaching and in my meetups.
Yeah, absolutely. I think just being around other people that are doing it is going to change your whole mindset, whether they're just a little bit ahead of you or way ahead of you. Because, one of my coaches, he does about 100 houses a year out in St. Louis. And just, I mean, there are leaps and bounds ahead of where you are, but you can still take those small things that they're doing and apply it to your business, whether you're doing one house a year or five houses a year. And another one of the coaches on there, I mean, they've just being in the networking part, they've been able to say, hey, this is something I'm using, like Asana, or here's a spreadsheet, like a rental spreadsheet. Here's how you run the numbers. That's just going to accelerate your learning. So what you're building is just being able to do that for other people. And that's so cool to see. And so what's some of the top questions you're getting from, these newer investors or somebody who's meeting you at the meetups? Is there like a top two or three questions you always get?
Yes. The number one question, how much money do I really need? Or what if I don't have any money, right? It's always the money question. That's hands down number one. Number two is what should I do? Like, should I be flipping? Should I get a rental? Should I get a short-term rental? And what happens is depending on the speaker and the topic, it always seems like, oh, maybe I should do that, right?
Hmm.
So that's always like another question that I get. And then really the third one is like, how do I even get started? Like I don't a lot of the questions I get are fear-based, right? And
Yes.
so the question is like, I don't feel like I know enough or I'm ready enough to get started. And how do I get started? So those are top three questions, definitely.
Yeah, so I kind of want to answer those
Yeah.
because I think the most important one is how does somebody get started? Because I'm a big believer in having that like future vivid vision. Like me and my wife sat down and went through like, hey, what do we want our lives to look like in the next 5 to 10 years if money, location, time wasn't an issue, and that was a good more of like a couples thing for us to do, but it really was able for us to backtrack and figure out like, okay, how do we get to that vivid vision? And that really set the tone for what we need to be doing right now. So that's my number one go-to. I just want to hear your answer on that.
Um, so I agree with that, but I also think that while everyone gets into real estate investing, right, we want to make money. This
Right.
is for profit, 100%. But I think it's really important that as an investor, especially someone just starting, is to really gain clarity on what that money represents to you. Like, what is your why, right? Because we all have different ones. And while someone just wants to make this a full-time career, they want to live the luxuries and be the next Grant Cardone, somebody else really just wants enough money where they can quit their 9 to 5 and raise their children. So it's really important to gain clarity on why you're doing this because, as you know, this is just like any other business. It's not easy. It gets frustrating. Maybe you lose money on a deal. And so for you to keep going and keep learning and keep growing, you really need to focus in on that. And while I do love a good 10-year vision, I also think it's important to do short-term and realistic goals because 10 years is so far away, right?
Hmm.
But we break this down to 90-day goals with literal action steps that you can make in the next 90 days. That's what's going to change you, right? Like 10 years wishing that you run a marathon isn't going to get you there. But if every day you put on your running shoes and you add a mile and run a certain amount of miles, that's going to get you there. And so I think it's really important to like focus on those short-term plans and keeping always in mind why you're doing it.
For sure. Do you do the 12-week year?
I have read it, and I do sort of like a version of it.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, that's cool. That's the 12-week year is something I do, and it's like, all right, you're checking the box, you're writing it down. Okay, why didn't I hit that goal? So I love that for the quarters. Um, and then, moving into the money question, it's like, oh, hey, I don't have enough money. How much do I need to get started? What's your advice to them?
So I like to be honest with people, right? And you can't not have any money at all, right? You're going to have some capital, um, or you're going to have some time, right? And I had a coach tell me this, you have time or you have money, you have to invest one of them in order to grow, right? And so if you don't have money, then you need to invest your time. And that means you need to find a deal for someone like me who's willing to buy it, right? Whether it's through wholesaling or just finding work, like reaching out to wholesalers and getting a deal and say, hey, Jenny, I have this flip opportunity to run these numbers or whatever. So I think if you really want to get into real estate investing and you don't have the money, then you need to focus on learning and finding deals for other people. Because again, this isn't a solo sport, right? And I mean, we hear it all the time, right? It's not the money that you can't find, it's the deal, right? I think finding the deal is the hardest part. The money will follow. You find a good deal and you're going to have people who are willing to put money into it. So if you don't have the money, then you need to not just say, "Oh, I don't have the money, I can't do it." Invest the time in learning, right? And learning how to wholesale or learning how to run numbers and finding those deals for people who do, and you can JV anything, right? And work together. So, but for real life action advice, I always tell people, especially if you have a W-2, open a high yield savings account and start putting money in there, whether it's $50, $105, but do it continuously and make that be your investment fund. And eventually that's going to grow into something that you can actually put towards an investment. So if you are someone like me that needs an actual to-do list, then do that, right? Start saving in a high yield savings account. Cash out your IRA. That's a good one if you
Yeah.
have one or a 401k. Um, but ultimately, really investing your time.
I 100% agree on that. I think books are the best place to start. That can, lead into the analysis paralysis, but if you're in analysis paralysis, you really haven't just picked something to go forward. I think
Right.
one you got like it doesn't matter what you decide, it's just more important that you decide. So being able to go from there and like for me here lately, it's we were working on buying a business and it's like, okay, well, in the time that it takes to do that, it's like that could be like 3 to 4 months of nothing. So it's like I'm going all in on wholesaling right now, like direct to agent. And it's like, okay, well, I can see the time part on that.
Yeah.
But, that's, um, I would say finding the deal, like you said, is definitely the toughest part. Like I feel I'm better equipped now to be able to go into wholesaling. I don't think I could have started there,
Yeah.
but it's like you can. So when being able to look for a good deal, like what do what's your buy box and how are you helping kind of lead somebody to say, okay, hey, you have the time and you're looking for deals, this is what I'm buying. So what is that buy box?
So we have different ones right now, but it's one of the things when you were saying picking your lane, one of the first things that I do with the women that I coach is like I don't care if you're doing short-term rental, long-term rental, flipping, whatever, pick one. And then actually one of the first things we do is create a buy box. And I tell them anything outside of this buy box, you're not running numbers, you're not looking at it, you're not thinking, oh, could this work or not? Because what you're doing is taking away from finding something that fits here, right? So it's like the first thing that we do. But as far as us for our buy box, we have expanded it now since we're growing, but we do lower priced homes. So once we flip them, they're usually for first time home buyers. So we'll buy anything 300 and below. Medium, to light rehab. We have done full rehabs and the ROI on that just doesn't really work for us. We're not
Mhm.
making more money. We're not as scared of a full rehab, but we tend to go to medium to light rehab, single family homes, or double wides. Double wides have to be like 1994 and newer. And then the ARV, we have a profit, right? So we try to make $50,000 on every flip. And so if the numbers don't work out where we're making that, then we just say no, right? Because there's enough for everybody is kind of like our mentality.
Yeah, keep the best, wholesale the rest.
Yeah. Well, we don't wholesale actually.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. Hmm.
It's just, hey, that's not our deal. We don't even offer on it.
Yeah. Hmm.
Interesting. Okay.
Oh, well,
Let's
I will say I offer on everything. Now, it might
okay.
not work. It might be way under what, they want, but I always offer.
Yeah, it's funny. I made a TikTok on that. I said, "Hey, we just offered 150,000 under list price." And it's like it didn't get accepted, but we still did it.
Hmm.
And you have a really good social media going. You do a lot of great posts. So how much time and, I would say effort are you putting into, your social media?
Well,
Yeah, that was a
it's
curveball question. It wasn't on
yeah.
the previous questions.
Well, it's the second job, right? Social media is. I will say I have to give a shout out to my sister, who is like my social media and my just coach in general, right? And so she'll tell me, you need to post about this, and she'll give me ideas. But I mean, social media does take up some time. I would say, I mean, I'm probably doing a few hours a week on social media. I have gotten a lot more comfortable. I think like once you get over the being on camera.
Oh yeah.
I've gotten a lot more comfortable being on camera, so it does make it a little easier because I'm like, oh, I have an idea. I'll strap on a mic and, say something. But it is a job.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. Once you get deeper into it, for sure. So, but before I let you go here, what's something you're working on right now that you're excited for that's coming up?
I'm really excited about just kind of growing this whole coaching program for women. I really think that it can be impactful for someone to really, I mean, real estate changes lives, right? And
Oh
I
yeah.
think that's kind of the theme, right? Like real estate can change your life and I feel like being able to coach women into getting into investing, whether they do it full time or as a side hustle, like I think it's life changing. And so I'm really excited that, the stars have aligned for me to be able to do that and be able to help women kind of achieve, whatever it is that they're wanting through real estate.
Yeah, and if somebody wanted to join that group or reach out to you about it, like where's the best place to go?
Best place is Instagram. So invest underscore with underscore Jenny. Best place either DMs or on there. You can also RSVP to any of the Lyft meetups or get onto my email newsletter. It goes out every Friday. I also have a Lyft Ladies Investing for Tomorrow Facebook group too that they can join.
Awesome. Awesome. And I'll make sure to link all of Jenny's information in the podcast notes below. So if you're looking for it, go down there, leave us a like, rating, and review as well, and you'll find Jenny's information. So, Jenny, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. I was excited to get you on.
Thank you. Thank you so much for reaching out. This was great.
Absolutely. So, this has been Chris and Jenny on the Leadway Wealth Builders Podcast. We'll see you next time.